Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg, and today we're gonna talk about what's probably going to be regular news for quite a while, and that is the Israeli-Gaza crisis that's going on that could spark World War III if we're not careful, and and we don't want that. So I want to discuss how it also relates here domestically, because that's just as important, because it pertains to our civil liberties as well in this country in terms of freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, that sort of thing, freedom of the press. Our First Amendment is at stake too in that regard. So that's we need to kind of tie it all in together. So I'm going to discuss what it means here domestically, because if we can solve this domestically, hopefully, in its own way, it can help internationally what's going on across the pond, so to speak. At least that's the way I see it. So anyway, before I get started, I want to go and give a shout out to some of my friends here. So around the world with D and friends. Hello D, how are you doing today? Great seeing you here. Gamer, how are you doing as well? Let's see here. Yeah, Beauty and the Boomer was on Rock Fan only last night, and not a lot of people last night in chat. Oh well. Yeah, I went to dinner last night. I wasn't feeling well, because I ate something that didn't agree with me yesterday morning, and when I woke up I had cold sweats, and I was let's just say I went to the bathroom a lot, and then after I took a shower and did a quick prep for the show last night, I still felt kind of cruddy at the beginning, but I started to feel better at the end of the show. So I went out and grabbed myself, went out to late dinner, and sadly speak, there was no secret show last night, and but I understand that Warren wasn't feeling too well either, so I hope he's getting better himself. So anyway, let's talk about the whole issue with the Gaza crisis. We know, in our audience, we know the situation. We know that there's a blockade. The blockade defies international law. It's inhumane to have the blockade in Gaza. It's an open air prison. Very little electricity, very little water, very little food gets in there. We got hospitals that are occasionally bombed, infrastructure that's substandard, occasionally bombed, and all of this sort of thing. You got Hamas that attack people in southern Israel. And I want to make it clear from the get-go. Any life that is lost on either side, any Israeli life, any Palestinian life, I don't care. Any life on either side is one life too many. But clearly, Israel is the aggressor. We're not talking about the ethnicity of the people that committed this thing. Because, again, I'm going to give you the example of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, we're all, I think anybody who has any sense of decency and morals will realize that Saudi Arabia is committing a genocide too in Yemen. And for all intents and purposes, what hell can you call that? What's going on, in particular, specifically in Gaza? A tiny little strip of land. They don't allow them to leave by the Egyptian border. They don't allow them to leave within the Israeli border. They're not allowed to leave by the sea. They're just in there like caged animals. It's inhumane. And here's the thing. You have some neocons, and you have the religious right, and you have even shit libs that would defend this crap that's going on. And to defend this shit is so fucking evil. I mean, it's just wrong. And and again, the shit libs, the neocons, and the evangelicals that that likes to go and cheer it, this kind of crap that Israel's doing. They'll tell you things about how superior Western values are, or what have you. I'm not a cultural relativist, and it runs contrary to Western values to treat a whole group of people in an open air prison, to bomb them. We're talking about what Israel's doing to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip is contrary to Western values. To bomb human beings and to deprive them of an infrastructure, to deprive them of electricity, to deprive them of water, to blockade them, to make them suffer endlessly. And to basically give reasons for the Palestinians in the Gaza to support assholes like Hamas. So this is it. And again, Hamas is a creation by the Mossad. It's a creation by the Mossad to havoc division, to havoc division, so that the Palestinians do not follow a secular and left politics of the PLO. So left-wing politics and secularism was substituted for fundamentalism that Hamas was able to provide. That vacuum that took place. The divide and conquer strategy. So I will tell people on the left, don't cheer Hamas so much, because you're cheering a creation by the Israeli Mossad when you do that. I just want to make that clear. Now let's go to domestic politics for a second, because let's talk about we know that Biden, and we know that the Democrats, they're going to go. They have been going all neocon on foreign policy. They filled in the vacuum when Bush and Cheney left off, when Bush and Cheney left office in 2009. And they continue in their own way. They continue Bush and Cheney the doctrine under a rainbow flag. That's not an anti-LGBTQ statement I just made, by the way. Trump came in with his bullshit. And, in some ways he ran contrary to Bush and Cheney, but he had a lot of Bush and Cheney people under him. So there was still some of that shenanigans going on. Well, moving the capital from moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, that was dumb. Doing things like selling arms to Saudi Arabia to fuel genocide, and that was going on prior to him, and it's continuing today. Dumb. Drone striking General Qasem Soleimani in January of 2020 in Baghdad, the Iranian general. Not a good guy, but you know what? He had the same enemies as the U.S. They're called ISIS. He did what stupid neocons wanted him to do, drone strike the guy. He had John Bolton in his administration. This is when people like Glenn Beck who was an anti-Trump Republican, started to get happy when he appointed him as NSA's advisor, National Security Advisor. He was just like, oh, well, he was happy when John Bolton was in his administration. Of course he was, because Glenn Beck is still the same old neocon shithead he was during the Bush Cheney years, during the Obama years. So, think about it is, The Bush-Cheney doctrine is back, and the Republicans, like Kit Cabela said a few weeks ago, that anti-war right thing is gone. So much for that anti-war right that was around for a few years. It's gone. So, speaking of Kit Cabela, going to talk about Jewish Voice for Peace, an organization that is opposed to what's going on in Gaza. A pro-peace organization. And so, and they went to protest in D.C. last week. So let me go ahead and play the part of the video from Harlan's Media, and I'll comment. I'll do some commenting too. Give me a moment here, and we will get started.
Let us all that we can to build a better future.
So MTG, you know me, is a little upset. MTG is, she got upset because something took place in Washington, D.C., where there was a supposed well-organized, heaven forbid, goodness gracious, cretaceous, an organized insurrection event taking place at the Capitol. Oh, God, it's January 6th, 2.0. Everybody run. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. MTG, you know me, was upset at the fact that there were people just calling for a ceasefire. Hey, can we have peace? Can we have a ceasefire? There was a whole bunch of protesters, activists, Jewish protesters in the rotunda of the Cannon Building in Washington, D.C., screaming, "Not in our name," in protest against the atrocities Israel is committing against the Palestinian people in Gaza. So let's play it, because apparently MTG is saying this is an organized insurrection. Wow, look, and threatening to destroy the U.S. Constitution. Oh, wait, I don't see any of that in there. I see a bunch of people protesting.
It's the First Amendment, the thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene claims to care about. She wears it on her fucking mask when a few times she wears a mask. Honestly, when it came to the COVID crisis, I was a mask moderate. The QAnon Karen is so ugly that she ought to wear a mask to cover that face of hers, because the politics that comes out of her mouth is ugly, which makes her ugly. But she has on that mask censorship as if she's a victim. And for all the talk about censorship and free speech that comes out of Marjorie Taylor Greene's mouth, what happened here last week at the Rotunda with Jewish Voice for Peace proves what a fucking liar Marjorie Taylor Greene is. She is cancel culture.
Ain't nothing new. And again, let's pull up this image here. Apparently, Citizen Free Press wants to say that there is a currently well-organized insurrection taking place. Okay. This looks nothing like an insurrection. And I'll say the same thing for January 6th, too. January 6th was just people being stupid. Just really, really dumb. Okay? And mind you, again, look at how many cops are around them, too. You know? Again, this is not in the Capitol building. This is at the Cannon Building. So, big difference. There's no politicians here that are going to be triggered and saying, "Oh, I have PTSD," like AOC. But like AOC, apparently this was just triggering MTG. You know me.
Well, here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of the right. they got a couple of things in common that I never thought I could have fessed up to saying they do. They both are anti-free speech. The only thing that I could say about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that makes her better than Marjorie Taylor Greene is at least she's fucking honest about it. One other thing that they got in common, in 2021, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez opposed forced to vote on Nancy Pelosi. Brianna Joy Gray told Bosch not too long ago that just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that Bosch also opposed forced to vote because Marjorie Taylor Greene opposed Matt Gaetz' way of doing forced to vote against Kevin McCarthy. That's why she's so fucking brilliant. Brianna Joy Gray, that is.
So again, why am I talking about MTG? Because apparently her and EOC are easily triggered, are easily perturbed. Here's MTG, you know me, saying, this is an insurrection.
This is an insurrection. Throw these people out. What is happening?
MTG, what are you doing? MTG, why are you spazzing? Why are you crying? Why are you crying? Again, these are protesters calling for a ceasefire because, again, we are seeing on social media the horrific and devastating imagery of the bombings in Gaza, the airstrikes, the military tactical strikes against civilians.
And let's talk about MTG for a moment. This thing from Northwest Georgia. She's the type of person. She's too stupid to realize that she ought to be praising Joe Biden for the war in the Ukraine because, the U.S. is indirectly, just like the U.S. is indirectly contributing to genocide in Yemen, the U.S. is indirectly putting money in the hands of neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. She ought to love that, but she's too stupid to recognize that. But here's the weird thing. Here's the paradox. Here's the juxtaposition. And the difference between AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene. The difference between them, and this is not the soft pedal AOC, is that AOC is kind of correct on Israel. She's critical of what they do, but she's not anti-Semitic. I will repeat that again. She's critical of Israel, but she's not anti-Semitic. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And there's a lot to criticize AOC about. Marjorie Taylor Greene, however, is anti-Semitic, but she is guided by a Christian Zionist theology and ideology because she's a fundamentalist Christian buffoon. You can see the expression on her face. She does look kind of like a buffoon. Suffice to say, we'll let this Karen continue.
Yeah, those are difficult to look at. But don't tell it to MTG because, again, as she's saying here, this is an insurrection. MTG, you know me. You sound like AOC.
This is an insurrection. Throw these people out.
What is happening? I'll tell you what's happening, QAnon Karen. You have people exercising the First Amendment. But the problem is, you only support the free speech of people that you agree with. But when it's people that you don't agree with, you call it an insurrection. And you want them to go and clear things out.
But it gets hilarious because apparently somebody actually gets into MTG's space and just says, "Hey, you know." But mind you, again, I've seen MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others of the political spectrum do this to liberal Democrats. So, hey, it's tit for tat. Everybody does this to each other, which is why I say abolish all political parties. Democratic voters, Republican voters, wake up. You don't need to be associated with people like MTG and ALC.
These people are not for peace. You can tell it's the same kind of movement.
You're not for peace either, Karen.
It started with BLM, and it'll be the same kind of violent movement later on. They don't want peace.
So
They want
Gaza live! Black Gaza live! Black Gaza live! Murderers go home! Murderers go home! Black Gaza live! Black Gaza live! Black Gaza live! And the genocide! And the genocide! And the genocide! And the genocide instead of funding it! Blood is on your hands! Gaza's blood is on your hands! Gaza's blood is on your hands! Gaza's blood is on your hands! Let Gaza live!
these people.
So, of course, what does Marjorie Taylor Greene do? MTG, you know me, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am formally requesting that the United States Capitol Police preserve all video surveillance footage, photographic evidence, police reports, and arrest records from all House office buildings on October 18th, 2023. So she's sending this all out. Dear Chief Manager, so MTG, you know me, is acting like a Karen. I am formally requesting that the United States Capitol Police preserve all video surveillance, photographic evidence, police reports, and arrest records from all House office buildings on October 18th, 2023. The group that organized the insurrection, Jewish Voice for Peace. Get this, I hope you're sitting down, is a pro-Islamic, anti-Semitic group. So Jewish Voice for Peace. To the Jewish people who are part of the Jewish Voice for Peace, congratulations. You are now a pro-Islamic and anti-Semitic. You crossed that finish line, baby. MTG, you know better. That it seeks the destruction of the state of Israel, according to the Anti-Defamation League.
You know, it's funny that she would say that because what did she do a couple of months ago? She went to an American First conference hosted by Nick Fuentes, who's a white nationalist who is very open about not liking Jewish people. She also said that that the California wildfires were started by Jewish space lasers. So I mean, when Jewish Voice for Peace or Max Blumenthal or Glenn Greenwald or Keaton Weiss and Russell Dobler from Due Dissidents or Noam Chomsky, I'm just naming some Jewish names right now. When they criticize Israel, I don't think they do so hating themselves. Not at all. They do so because they see an injustice that's happening to another group of fellow human beings. That's what it comes down to. Aaron Matei's father is a Holocaust survivor. He takes that shit seriously. And he's called out on what Israel has done. There are Holocaust survivors that have called out on Israel's shenanigans. Because, they don't want to see, they don't want to see, they've seen what injustice can be done. Now, I don't want to make it sound like Israel's the only country to do terrible things. All countries do terrible things. Every country is capable of doing evil. And frankly, it would be almost anti-Semitic to act like Israel's incapable of doing evil because you're saying that they're inhuman in a way to suggest that. So, the thing about it is, man's humanity to man. Have you heard of that phrase? That's what it comes down to. Now, when it comes to anti-Semitism, if you hate Israel because you hate Jewish people, I have nothing. I don't stand in solidarity. But if you hate the actions of Israel and what they're doing to Palestinians, that's a totally different thing, because anti-Semitism Judaism and Zionism do not necessarily conflate. And you could be anti-Zionist and be against anti-Semitism. And one person explained that pretty well here on this show, and that was Jen Perlman from Generational Change about a month and a half ago. I think it was like about a month and a half ago, back in August. It was close to September. Anyway, she was on the show, and she talked about that herself. So point I'm trying to make is that these people, the Jewish Voice for Peace, wants peace. They want peace because it's just an innate nature of this organization to want what's good for everyone. Black Lives Matter that Marjorie Taylor Greene complained about are not black supremacists. They are wanting to end police brutality against African Americans that takes place way too often in way extreme cases where there are cops that act in racist bullshit way toward minorities. And that's why Black Lives Matter existed. If the cops were doing their jobs like 99% of the time, they were doing what they were supposed to do without the racial bias, there wouldn't be a Black Lives Matter. But Black Lives Matter exists because they want to see the end of police brutality. And I'm sure that the average member of Black Lives Matter, if regardless of the race, if somebody is breaking into their home, they will want the law enforcement to go and take care of that problem in the most appropriate ways possible. So that's what I'm saying right there. And Jewish Voice for Peace, they want. I mean, and I don't. What I know about them, I think they're basically a coalition of anti-Zionists and maybe even some tacitly left-leaning pro-Israel people that want Israel to behave itself. Regardless, here's the thing. The aggressor is the right-wing government of Benjamin Netanyahu, the most right-wing government the country's ever had. And it is literally the most right-wing, the most racist, the most theocratic government ever. And honestly, who are the biggest fans of Israel in the United States today? It's the far right. Not because of its Jewishness, but because they have a misinterpretation from the Scofield Bible. So that's part of the situation there with regard to fundamentalist Christians, because basically at the end of the day, what they want, this is why they cheered Trump when he pulled out of the Iran deal. That treaty, that peace treaty, one of the few things Obama did right was that peace treaty with Iran, and it was working. It was working. They were trying to acclimate Iran to the West by trying to convince them that, hey, it's a good idea to partnership with the West and to have good ties with the West, and to in return, the West will respect your culture and peacefully coexist. And Iran was listening, and I think that Iran would have transitioned into kind of a democracy of sorts. But because Trump listened to the neocons, the Bush-Cheney Republicans, and he listened to the evangelicals, and a lot of them overlap with the neocons when it comes to foreign policy. This is why the Republicans can't give up the anti-war shit. So when the people tell you and I don't want to make it sound like Democrats are better than Republicans, but this is the thing about Republicans. This is why it's never a good idea to vote for Republicans, because the neocons and the evangelicals are lusting for war all the time. And never forget that. Never forget that they're lusting for war all the time. So and so he pulled out of the Iran peace treaty to basically keep his base happy. It would be nice if Joe Biden would have gotten in there and tried to police his base the way that Trump did. We might have a better opinion of Biden if that would have happened. Oh, no. Instead, he promised no fundamental changes would take place. And unfortunately, he kept his promise. That's the one promise he kept. Pisses me off. Anyway, Lee Kemp talks about this too as well. So let's go talk about the protesters that got arrested. Give me a moment here. We'll get started momentarily. One of the most censored people in this country right now is Lee Kemp.
This was Congress just a few hours ago. A day ago, but that's what I mean by a few hours. This is Jewish Voice for Peace. I read their statement the other day, but so this is almost entirely Jews occupying the Capitol building here in the United States of America. And these are Jews against the genocide, against the apartheid state, and as am I. And here they are. Let me play this video for you of them occupying the Capitol. They've got signs that say ceasefire. They've got signs saying peace, calling for peace, calling for ceasefire. But as you can see, people are waking up to the reality around the world that what Israel's doing is not okay, is not defending itself. You cannot defend yourself by bombing children and innocent people. That is not defending itself. People are waking up to this brutality, to this genocide. And as you can see, hundreds occupied the Capitol. I want to bring you some more of what they said, what Jewish Voice for Peace said about that moment inside our nation's capital. They said today 500 Jews were arrested. So it was more than that, but that was the number that were arrested. Because normally police, and I've been to that Capitol many times. I've protested there. Police will give multiple warnings. They'll say, we're going to arrest you if you remain. If you still remain, we're going to arrest you. And they keep reminding people that if they'd like to leave. So I'm sure some left because they didn't feel like donating their time to the state at the moment. But many of them stayed and said, we're not leaving this Capitol building until there is a ceasefire in Israel, ceasefire by Israel. And of course, the United States could do that. The United States could cause that. The United States could demand, of which, because not the least reason wouldn't, I'm phrasing this poorly, but not least of which because however you guys rephrase it and send me an email with it, because the U.S. could just cut off the billions in aid. Just like boop, done. But of course, that's perhaps the smallest reason that Israel will do anything the United States says. Jewish Voice for Peace says 500 Jews were arrested and 10,000 took to the streets to support and to demand, to draw mass attention to the U.S. complicity in Israel's ongoing oppression of Palestinians. But our work isn't done. We can and will stop genocide in Gaza, but this horrific situation was only possible because of the groundwork laid by the Israeli state over 75 years ago. This horrific situation. Is that what I said? And yeah, this is all the harm that Israel has done as an apartheid state has led up to this. This didn't start yesterday. You need to learn the history. You need to know what went on years ago to lay the, since 1948, the Israeli, just as we demand an end to genocide in Gaza, we must put the tide and colonialism that brought us to this moment. The only way to peace and safety for everyone is through ensuring justice and equality for everyone. That means standing in solidarity with Palestinians. It means building a world beyond Zionism. It means creating systems of safety through solidarity. Will you join us? And if you want to join Jewish Voice for Peace, you can look them up online. They have a website and all that good stuff. They'd be pretty remiss if they still didn't have a website at this point. And I do not believe you have to be Jewish to join up with Jewish Voice for Peace and help their mission. But anyway, that's the occupation of the Capitol that just went on. Eventually, 500 people were arrested in order to stop that occupation, in order to allow a genocide to continue, in order to shut up those voices so that genocide can continue.
Okay. So anyway, I just let you know, and you heard it from the man himself, about 500 activists being arrested. And, we heard the January 6th people by a lot of folks on the right being treated, acting as if they were victims and what have you. And I have my view on January 6th insurrection. I have my own views on it. I don't respect the ideology of most of the people that were there and storming of the Capitol. I think that the majority of them got caught up. They didn't come there to start the thing. It wasn't really an insurrection per se. It was more like a diet coup. Having that said, I think that maybe many of them should have had maybe a light fine misdemeanor, that sort of thing, and go after those on the top that plotted. And, members of Congress that were kind of involved. And I think that I won't mention any names, but we heard a Karen complaining earlier. I think she should have been removed from Congress. People talking about removing Ilhan Omar and removing Rashida Tlaib and removing the squad for making what they perceive as a disagreeable remark about Israel. Well, even though it was a diet coup, what was going on, if you wanted to call it an insurrection on January 6th situation, and that was a hell of a lot worse than hurting Israel's feelings verbally. And think about it is, free speech for me, but none for thee. That's what it comes down to. So, if there's anything that I want you to come out of this, would be this: whenever the right act like they're being the victim, and that those meanie old little 19-year-old anorexic little purple hair college kids are whining about their feelings, and they're acting like that the right are being persecuted because 19-year-old purple hair anorexic little soy boys are being just a little whiny at the moment and a little hyper woke at the moment. Doesn't that make these chuds that they think they're so alpha? Doesn't that make them the biggest pussies in the world, that they have to go and complain about people like the little 19-year-old anorexic little film boys crying about their feelings on the college campus? Think about it. And you think about the most masculine one of them all, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, he is the biggest victim of them all, the biggest Karen of them all, biggest hypocrite of them all. QAnon Karen. Okay, so let's see what we have here on the chat line. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. How are you doing? Yo. PHX Cisco. I haven't seen you in a while. How are you? when people say we need to work with MTG, this is what I will. This is why I never will. I agree. I do get a little perturbed when I hear when she gets the right when she's a stop clock given the right time twice a day. I don't pay any credence to Marjorie Taylor Greene because she doesn't mean it, and I know that about her, and so I don't trust anything, even when she says something that comes close to being agreeable. Like Russia, Ukraine. She's not my ally. Even then, she's not my ally. She'll never be my ally under any circumstances. Gamer, I agree. F Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I think you and me both means figuratively. Because I know I would not fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene with Matt Gaetz's dick. Let's see. Yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a theocrat terrorist. Well, yeah. Water is wet. Typical Christian who thinks they persecuted 24/7 while living in a Christian stronghold. Yes, this is what I tell people. I don't want to. When it comes to religiosity and things like that, you can call me a lukewarm Christian that thinks like an atheist. And what I mean by that is that, I believe strongly in separation of church and state. And what I believe on religious matters is personal, and people should, religion should be a personal matter. Oh, if you want to go and advertise yourself, I guess that's your right, but you don't have a right to push your religious beliefs on to other folks. That's basically the point I'm trying to make. And so my point is, when I hear the war on Christmas and the war on Easter, and the war on Christians, I'm going to tell you like it is. There are no locks on my door on Sunday morning when I go to church. There's no gag order on my priest at the altar. On the pulpit when he's doing his homily. There's I'm not. Nobody stops me from going to Christmas service or Easter Sunday service or anything like that. Last time I checked, none of that has happened. So, and I would be opposed to it if those things were happening. So, who's probably the most persecuted group in this country? It's not the Christians. It's not really Jewish people. It's not Muslims. It's the atheists, the skeptics. Say you're an atheist. Oh my gosh. I mean, people just act like, they just cringe. How in the world can you, and honestly, I trust atheists probably more so than I trust any other religious group. Can have a conversation with most of them. So, and yeah, you will get fundamentalist atheists too. You're going to get fundamentalists anywhere. But, when it comes to this sort of thing, I was like, people, please have an open mind. That bitch would be asking for your manager. She has Karen written all over her face. That's why I called her QAnon Karen when I first heard of her back in 2020. I was like, oh God, somebody worse than Sarah Palin. Worse than Michelle Bachmann. I almost owe those bimbos an apology. I commented on their video when he says, MTG, you know better. No, she doesn't. And that's the problem with groups like Harlan's Media giving her credence. I think that was just Kit having a snarky moment. That's what I think personally. I understand Kit's humor. That's why I do like Harlan's Media. I can kind of read between the lines with the sarcasm. Sometimes I'm good with my sarcasm. Sometimes I'm not. But I do consider myself, broadly speaking, kind of sarcastic. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say right now. I need to go and take care of something. I need to actually upload another Rumble video of that needs attending to. So right now, if you like what you heard, please press like, comment, and share and subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our time. And of course, remember to always reject corporate media, because they have nothing to offer. And until next time, I am Willie Bragg of the Willie Bragg Show. And I will see you all next time. Hoping we'll have some more videos up this week, because I've been kind of behind lately. Take care. Bye-bye.